Hi, my name is Luke Naranjo. I'm a senior communications major here at UNT. So we're going to be learning about performance in our everyday lives. And I want to preface this by saying when I first took this class over the first week, my idea of a performer is, and I'm sure it's the same with many others, is someone performing a script, someone in a screenplay, someone in a theatrical production, an actor, or even a character in a script. But what I failed to understand in this crash course began to lead me through it is that we are all performers in our everyday lives, largely based off of a few different concepts. But in my opinion, it is relatively simple. But I'm aiming to walk us through that and to show my understanding. So I'd like to start off by a few key concepts that come with performance in our everyday lives. So, a few important terms are status, roles, and social interaction. So, status is something that can either be assigned to you or something you achieve. That's the difference between an ascribed status, the former, and an achieved status, the latter. So, for me, an ascribed status would be that I'm a white male from a middle class family. These are things I can't change no matter what. Um, and an achieved status would be something like a student. I achieved the status of a student. And with roles and status and social interaction, um, our status creates roles based off of social interaction. So, for example, I achieved the status of a student. Now, my role as a student can encompass many different things. But, for example, I'll just say, like, my role as a student based off of social interaction is to sit down in class and adhere to the status of the teacher who is teaching me, and my role is to learn, take in the information, be respectful, things of that nature. These all revolve around norms, cultural norms and rules that are implied, but there's no law of physics saying I have to be the student listening to the teacher, all that thing. This is all stuff that has kind of came together and intertwined with our society, but they're not necessarily rules that we have to follow. And that's the biggest thing for me that shows that we are performers is there's no way that we've been told we have to live life, but we perform in a way that makes the most sense for us, whether it goes our way or not. But we are all performing in that sense that there's no law of physics saying, okay, you have to wear this or that. These are all things that go with being a performer. Now, in my personal experience, I I definitely have wrestled with this idea a little bit, and I didn't really like connect the dots between performance and whatnot until this crash course. So the connecting this to my own life was very interesting to me. So my ascribed status, right? I'm a white male from a middle class family. My family lives in Frisco, Texas. So with that, a lot of roles are expected of me based off other people's experiences and assumptions. And oftentimes they are very misguided, which leads me to a role conflict. People have their own assumptions and expectations of me, which they don't work with what I think of myself, what my role that I am performing is. So, for example, the amount of times someone's asked me, "Oh, what frat are you in?" Like, you give off frat boy vibes, things of that nature. Um, and that's not who I am. Really, to me, my role is like I'm a nerdy dude. I love movies and TV shows and video games and like advanced baseball stats. Like, so a lot of times people's understanding of what my role is largely misguided to the role that I'm trying to perform. And that can be for many different reasons. Mostly, like, if they meet someone that looks similar to me and they act a certain way, they will think that I act the same way. So this largely shows, like, everyone has their own expectation of what your role is based off of roles that other people are playing. So this further goes to show that we're all performers. Um, with that being said, I try to portray myself and show the roles around me. For example, I'll show a little bit of my apartment here. So anime posters, movie posters, baseball stuff. And for example, like if someone did not know me at all and they walked into my apartment, they may or not be surprised about what my role is and how I try to perform and portray myself, or they might not be. Um, so that's kind of the way I see that. And so we'll get into the third prompt. So dramaturgical analysis is kind of a summary of everything that I've been saying. The guy's name was Erving Goffman. And Erving Goffman tried to put all these points that I'm making into not necessarily a formula, but he described the performance. Understands social interaction as a play. So this bridges the gap between, okay, I think a performer is an actor. Well, his theory is that we are all actors. And the example that the crash course uses is a teacher and students in a class. So the teacher, right, is expected to come to class on time, have materials prepared, teach the class, grow our understanding, be there for the students. But these are all things that aren't laws of nature. Based off of social expectations and norms, we have come to the point where that's expected of the teacher. And the students are expected to sit down in class and listen and grow their understanding, not disrupt the teacher, right? And that leads us into front stage and backstage, right? So using the play analogy, the front stage is what other people see. That's the role that you are looking to express to other people, right? So furthering on the teacher explanation, the teacher in the front stage is looking to probably be warm, all right? Teach the class this, grow their understanding, right? Backstage is grading, and it might be ideas they have of students, right? Let's say I'm your least favorite student. That's something you might discuss backstage, but I would at least hope that you would not come to me or say in front of all of the class, you are my least favorite student. Why wouldn't you do that? Because of social interaction and social norms. That would be looked at as something, wow, that is not, something I would do. And that's just another example of the role of the teacher. You would drastically be hurting your perception by doing something like that. And that's kind of how front and backstage works to me. And that also is the same point as managing impressions. Obviously, as humans, we want, for the most part, to be accepted and to, not necessarily fit in, but we want others to be respectful and nice to us. And we tailor our impressions, or even if you don't want people to be nice to you, you tailor your impressions in a way that works for you, ideally. Like for me, something that I've always struggled with is my RBF. People always think I look mean or intimidating for whatever external factors. So something I've been trying to be intentional about is looking more, like having a better expression on my face so that people don't have that perception that in my role I am, hard to talk to or rude, things of that nature. And this also connects with props, going off the theater example. Props can be anything, like props can be even your backpack, your clothes, settings. I'll refer back to my apartment. If someone I didn't know walked into my apartment, I have all these posters and shirts and all this artwork to show like these are the things I like. These should be a part of your perception of me and what you expect of me. Like if I tell you I'm a huge movie fan. You're gonna be like, okay, let me think of what movies I like. Let's try and connect this way. But if I told you I hate movies, you would never ask me about that, right? So this is kind of how, in my opinion, that props and clothing, language, things of these nature kind of play into our roles and how other people see us in our role and the role that we're playing. You're as free as you want to express yourself to others, and there's no rule saying you can or can't do this. And that's where we perform a certain thing. So this being said, I hope I covered the whole concepts. Might have rambled a little bit, but I think I have a good understanding of the idea between performance and our everyday lives. Thank you.